This story was sent in by a viewer, and it genuinely gave me chills. If you're into creepy stories like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have your own strange or paranormal encounter, send it to jumpscare.info@gmail.com. Your story might just be featured next. Now, let's get into it. It started when I was 8 years old. My grandfather had passed away, and my family went to the funeral to say our final goodbyes. I remember feeling sad, but not entirely understanding the weight of what was happening. What I do remember vividly was the atmosphere in the funeral home. It was quiet, almost too quiet. The room felt heavy, like the air was thicker than normal. I sat on one of the pews, swinging my legs and looking around while the adults talked in hushed voices. That's when I saw him. In the corner of the room, crouched near a stack of flower arrangements, was a small figure. At first I thought it was a kid, but the longer I looked, the more I realized something was wrong. He was tiny, no taller than 3 feet, but his proportions were all off. His arms and legs were twisted, almost like a doll that had been bent the wrong way. His skin was pale and waxy, with dark veins running beneath the surface. But it was his face that scared me the most. His eyes were huge, way too big for his head, and his mouth hung open, revealing sharp, blackened teeth. He wasn't moving. He wasn't even breathing. He was just there, staring at me. I tugged on my mom's sleeve, trying to get her attention. "Mom," I whispered, pointing toward the corner. "Who's that man?" She frowned and looked where I was pointing. "What man?" I turned back, and he was gone. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his twisted limbs and that horrible grin. My mom chalked it up to my imagination, but I knew what I saw. Over the next few months, I started seeing him more often. It wasn't all the time, just every now and then, in places where I was alone. He never moved or made a sound. He'd just show up, always in the corner of a room, staring at me with those bulging eyes. The first time I saw him outside of the funeral home was in my bedroom. I woke up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was watching me. I rolled over, and there he was, crouched in the corner by my closet. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I just pulled the blanket over my head and stayed like that until morning. As I got older, I tried to convince myself it wasn't real. Maybe it was just a vivid dream or my mind playing tricks on me. And for a while, it seemed to work. I stopped seeing him as often, and when I did, I'd tell myself it wasn't real. But when I was 14, he came back in a way I couldn't ignore. I was staying late at school, helping my art teacher clean up after class. The room was empty except for me, and the fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly. I was rinsing paintbrushes in the sink when I felt it. That same heavy feeling I remembered from the funeral home. I turned around, and he was there. This time, he wasn't crouching. He was standing, if you can even call it that. His body looked like it was being held up by strings, his limbs dangling awkwardly. His head was tilted to the side, and his grin was even wider than before. I dropped the paintbrushes and screamed. My teacher came running, asking what was wrong. I pointed at him, but when she looked, he was gone. After that, I started to see him everywhere. He wasn't just in the corners of rooms anymore. I'd catch glimpses of him in reflections, in store windows, in the bathroom mirror, even in the side view mirror of the car. One night, when I was 17, I woke up to a sound that still haunts me. It was scratching, faint at first, like nails dragging across wood. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and turned on the lamp. He was there, sitting on the edge of my bed. This time, he wasn't just staring. He was grinning, wider than ever, and his head was tilted so far to the side that it looked like his neck was broken. His mouth opened slightly, and I swear I heard faint, raspy laughter. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just sat there frozen until he faded away. After that night, I decided I needed answers. I started asking questions, trying to figure out if anyone else had seen something like this. When I brought it up to my mom, she got quiet. "The night your grandfather died," she said, "he kept talking about a little man. He said, 'He's here. The little man is here.'" Hearing that sent chills down my spine. The encounters became more intense after that. I'd wake up with scratches on the walls of my room, deep gouges that no normal animal could make. I started hearing whispers, faint and unintelligible, but enough to make my blood run cold. One night I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I sat in my room, lights on, and waited for him to show up. Sure enough, around 3 a.m., he appeared in the corner. This time I decided to confront him. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He tilted his head, his grin growing impossibly wider. Then, for the first time, he moved. He crawled toward me, his limbs bending in unnatural ways, until he was inches from my face. His eyes locked onto mine, and in a voice that sounded like a mix of nails on a chalkboard and a dying breath, he whispered one word: "Soon." That was the last time I saw him, but I know he's not gone. Every now and then I catch glimpses of him in the corner of my eye, or hear faint scratching in the walls. And every time I wonder if soon is closer than I think.